Welcome, everyone, to episode 65 of the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor, and man, it has been a while since I've done one of these. As you can all imagine, everyone's going through COVID, and people have probably been busy with a lot of other things, and I've certainly been no different. With kind of staying at home and being a husband and a dad, and making sure I'm working and switching jobs and all kinds of other stuff. But we're not really going to get into all that today. Everyone who's been following my career knows kind of that Vertebreaker went through a huge personnel change over the last year and a half or so. And back in, I want to say back in, when was it, March or April that I got to have him on. But yeah, it was April that I got to have Herman, our new drummer, on. And, had to have him kind of tell his story. And I wanted to get all the current members on here at some point. So this is just sort of another installment of that. When I was looking to rebuild the band, obviously one of the toughest, I think anytime you're trying to start a new band or trying to look for new members, the bass position seems to be the hardest position to fill. I've noticed over all my years of doing this. I'm not sure why that is. I've played bass for years. I really like the instrument. I think finding a guitar player and a drummer and even a singer, can be, I found is that has been a little bit easier of a process than finding of a bass player. Again, don't know why that is, but I remember asking around and I started to talk to other guys who I've played with over the years. And one of those was a guy named Hutch Reimer. He plays for a great band called Vapid. He and I go way back a few years. His band and Vertebreaker had played a lot of shows over the years, and Vapid is a really good like post-grunge trio kind of thing. Just really fantastic band. I recommend you check them out, and I want to have him on the show one of these days. But I was asking him around and I didn't know what Vapid was doing at the time. I didn't know if he, knew anyone who was playing bass, and he immediately gets back to me. He's like, hey, you should contact my buddy Rob. He and I used to play in this band Mindwax together a few years ago, and he's, not really doing anything right now, but I think he wants to get back into it. And so I did, and that's how I met Robert Secrest. And Rob has been in the band, I want to say since around like March or April of 2019, like shortly after the original guys had all left. I had found Herman, and then I had found Rob almost right away. So I was very lucky to have like a new rhythm section like that quickly, when it came to a transition like that. So, I met Rob, talked to him. He had played in Mindwax and other bands before, but he hadn't really played in too many original bands, in recent years. But he was excited to get back into it. And he was just one of those guys we kind of hit it off right away, and he's been with the band ever since. So here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show, Robert Secrest on bass.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jack. It's been a while. We've been trying to set it up, and I finally got a hour time slot. So I'm excited to be on here. And I don't understand why it is hard to find bass players. I think this could be true that if you find a bass player that's any good, they already have a band. They're
right? They get snatched up right away. And, it's one of those things. I think especially with rock music and hard rock music, the bass isn't always. It's not always like prominently featured. It's an important part of it. Don't get me wrong, but I think as opposed to like genres like jazz or R&B, which can be very bass heavy.
Absolutely.
Hard rock music and metal, like the bass definitely provides a purpose, but isn't quite as in your face as a lot of the guitar and drums can be. So it's not always looked at as being sort of the sexiest instrument or whatever. But it serves a very, very big purpose, and it's something that I certainly look into. Bass was really my first instrument before I started singing seriously, and obviously, that my gig now is being a singer, and so I kind of focus on that and rather have someone else kind of come in and back up on that. But that was something that was always very important to me, and we had talked about that early on and talked about our various influences, and I was really impressed by sort of how eclectic a lot of your tastes were, and it seemed to match pretty well with mine, and that's why we're still playing together.
Oh yeah, like basically, I got into playing bass. I guess I was 14, maybe 13. My friend Bobby started playing guitar, and our friend Tom played drums. And it was like, hey, we're playing Metallica and Green Day songs. You need to come, and you need a bass, and you can play with us. And I was like, okay. So, I tell my dad, hey, I need a bass. So we get like this 4-string PV, and then like probably a PV amp, and we just go in the garage and we're playing Enter Sandman and When I Come Around. And that's really how I got into playing music. I kind of grew up doing Little League baseball and like sports, and then my dad and family, it was like we listened to Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, like, and then even into like the Police. So I grew up on kind of a classic rock, even 80s, like, new wave. And then like the grunge era, I was really into that. So like when I started playing at 14, this is 1996. So if you guys can remember, if anyone can remember that far back, this is like, we're talking grunge and then like new metal era. Grunge might be dying out, but you still had bands like Smashing Pumpkins and Soundgarden were still kind of playing. Alice in Chains was on their way out, but you had Metallica at their height. So that's kind of how like my genesis into playing bass. And it really at first wasn't a thing where I'm like, hey, I want to just, I'm not carving out to be the next great bass player. It was just like, hey, let's get together and jam out. But as time progressed and as I was playing, I just fell in love with the music. And then I was figuring out like, okay, I have a skill and then I can build on this and learn and learn and learn. And I got very interested in certain bands and specifically Tool. The first time I heard, really, it was like Stinkfist. And I'm like, oh, the bass is like out front and it's like kind of setting the tone and it's a 3-piece band. So it's like very prominent. And I'm like, okay, I can. So that's when I kind of started trying to always stand out as much as I could. I didn't want to bury myself in the mix or, I was like, okay, I'm going to show off my talents. And then I started gravitating towards music that was, kind of like not necessarily bass heavy, but prominent parts, like Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
They are just like, I was like, okay, this is kind of my speed.
Robert DeLeo, man, he's a fantastic player.
He's amazing, and then, he plays guitar. So, and then, back in the old days, I would try to grab a guitar when, the guys are done practicing or they're taking a break. I'm going to go grab the guitar and start messing around on it. So I've never played in a band specifically with guitar more than a couple times, but I just, from day one, it's been a progression into just playing as much as I can and learning and growing. And then that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. Like I started playing bass first and then learned, how to, play chords on the guitar and everything. And, I certainly am better on bass than guitar, but yeah, I mean, it's cool, having that sort of experience and certainly a lot of bass players that I liked weren't, you'd have some really technical players, but they also played a big role in songwriting as well.
Oh yes. I really didn't write music until I was about 21. And like when you said I started playing with Mindwax, that was actually, it was probably more like 1920. I was in that range. Funny story. I'm managing a barbecue restaurant at Old Town, which is down Kissimmee area. And I'm in the back. I'm in the office. I'm like counting money or something or doing, just doing something at a desk. And one of the girl comes back and she's like the cashier. She's like, hey, there's some guys out here that were talking about asking if we have bands that play. And I'm like, huh, like, did you get their name? She's like, no. I'm like, well, you know what? I might know them because the music community, this is 20 years ago. It's pretty small. So I was like, I might know these people. sure enough, it's my friend Bobby who introduced me to playing music, and my friend Tom. They were playing with Hutch and like the original like mutation of Mindwax. This is like
Mm-hmm.
in the garage. This is no live shows. And I'm like, oh, what's up? And they're like, hey, we need a bass player. You want to come play like with Hutch? And I'm like, really? And I knew Hutch from middle school. We weren't friends, but he played baseball. Like we're all, it's a small town. This is Kissimmee.
Mm-hmm.
So I get in talking to Hutch. We play a few times, and I was pretty confident in my abilities. And I had played in high school bands, but nothing real like adult. And we hit it off from right away, right? And then that's when like, the writing process started, because he would show me these songs and he would say, hey, this is how you play it. And I'm like, hold on. I'll play it like how I want to play it. Don't show me, don't tell me what to do. And like, we can work on it. And he like, it was a funny time, but that's when the writing started. And then I'm like, okay, this is what I can add. And then I can even come in with a melody and say, hey guys, let's do this. And like, Mindwax is a very small local band. We played all over Central Florida up into Jacksonville. But if you're familiar with it, go on any type, you can go on iTunes. You can hear like, and then also if you want to go on, like Reverb Nation, we have even like some like live recordings. You'll notice bass is kind of like out front a lot, and it was a 3-piece for a long time. So we would have to write in a manner that was like, it would fill up a space. Cause if you can have a lot of 3-piece bands and it just sounds empty and real, there's nothing there. Sure. So like the writing process, it was like, there was a big like burden for me to add to the song. I can't just go in there with this very basic rhythm, because there's just nothing there. So dynamically, melodically, like we worked out a lot. And that was, the first, 6-7 years as an adult playing in bands, like that was all formed during that era. And it was great. A lot of cool times.
You mentioned that you wanted to specifically add to the song. Were there ever songs you ran into where it's like, okay, well, I mean, look, I know what I can do. I know my ability goes probably far and beyond what this song calls for, but let me lay it back a little bit just because it'll fit this particular song better. How do you usually approach those sort of things?
Yeah, so that's back in those days, we would complicate things too much, I think. Mm-hmm. I mean, being like a young, inexperienced songwriter, player, you might complicate things a little more. And then when you get into the studio, then you learn like, okay, I've overcomplicated it. I've made it too busy. There's too much going on. So you have to learn, okay, we got to lay it back. We got to, get with the drums. So that was a couple years of like just grinding it out, right? You don't realize that you've overcomplicated things until you hear it recorded, or you kind of, like live performances sometimes can hide a lot of things. So that was a growing process, right? Those are growing pains at the beginning of just being a player and being professional about it. Because, a lot of guys, I see it now, being experienced, they get a little too crazy, right? Yeah. And then you're like, and you can see where you're taking away from things. And I kind of like joining Vertebreaker was really interesting because I love that type of heavy music. Like the music we play is like, it's more like, it's kind of like a straightforward metal genre, right? There's no crazy like progression in it. It's not like, I wouldn't even consider it like very subgenre like. It's just straight up rock. Like we got cool, amazing guitar solos. We got the rhythm section doing their thing. And I'm able to like, I had to make this a point, like, all right, I can't overcomplicate this because I have a lead guitar player, I have a rhythm guitar player, and they're working together. So that's been the process, like with us, is like playing a different style than I'm normally, you know, accustomed to playing.
Sure.
You know, like I need to be there and like set a low end with the drums and match that. So that's been kind of
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, you know, in the future, who knows? There might be room in some songs for you to kind of experiment a little bit with that. You know, there's certainly room to experiment with those sorts of sounds. I mean, depending on the song. Ultimately, it comes down to what's best for the song. But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly all in favor of everyone sort of getting their chance to shine as much as possible.
Oh yeah, and like really, there are, you know, so like the you know, the old lineup songs,
Mm-hmm.
all the new players have like really added a lot to them, and we're all shining, and
For
it's
sure.
really cool. And then obviously, you know, because of COVID, we've all been like kind of separated and doing like we're all doing our homework at home, and we're trying to like we're writing, and
Sure.
it's really cool because you got 5 people that, you know, have we all like the same music, and we all kind of like have like bass in other types. So we're all
Sure.
kind of like we have these ideas and they get smashed together. So we
Mm-hmm.
will have like it's really cool because people are gonna, you know, probably hopefully in the next few months, but maybe next year when they hear us, it's gonna be like, wow, it's almost like a whole new band because
Sure.
it's like you
Well,
got 4 brand
in
new
many ways, it
players.
is. You know.
Yeah, right. It's just the old name, like this
Sure.
name. This is uh, we're all different people. They're gonna be like, wow, they look different. And
Yeah.
like these are the same songs, but then there's these new songs, and for some reason they sound different. It's
Mm-hmm.
not better or worse. It's just, you know, you have. It's just like if someone's gonna paint the Mona Lisa,
Yeah.
they can paint it, and it'll look the same, but it's not the same because when you get down into it, you're like, okay, they do this differently, they do that differently, and that's kind of like how our band is currently. Like we're gonna play older songs from the original days, and then the new songs, they're just gonna be like, wow, that's really cool. It's like it's kind of like cheating because I don't know, this is like an example I always come up with in my head. People, you could never hear AC/DC, right? You would listen to Hell's Bells or like Back in Black, and then I would play another song from them, and you'd be like, oh yeah, it's the same band
Mm-hmm.
because it's like the same sound, like the guitar player, the tone, and then, but like let's say if at some point Angus Young left the band you know, in the '80s, they'd be like, whoa, this sounds kind of different, like, and then it's because everyone brings something special and everyone brings like
Well,
that to the
even
band.
especially, you know, specifically with AC/DC, if they were to record an album now, I mean, now, you know, Malcolm Young was really behind a lot of the songwriting, and now that he's passed away, who knows what a new AC/DC album would sound like?
Right? Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's what I was thinking
But
Malcolm.
yeah,
Like, yeah, it. You know, like
even though Angus was very much the star, right? He was very much the guy up front.
for sure. And it's like, you know, I'm just thinking of something very specific, like our band, what we're dealing with, and what we do. It's like we've hit this road bump, which the COVID thing has been horrible, and it's like, you know, we all have to kind of like every
Yeah.
day is a new day. We've had some teasers about, oh, we got a show, we're booking it, and then it's
And then it
like,
didn't
no,
happen. Yeah,
it doesn't happen.
I do want to let everyone know who's listening right now. I mean, as we're recording this, it's August of 2020. The band had just, at the beginning of this year, we had just started to play shows. And like, you know, we ended up doing 2 shows. We only did one with Derek, our current guitar player, one of the 2. Right, and like the last show we did was in March, like literally a week or 2 before everything shut down, before the whole world shut down, basically. So like we were
Yes.
just starting to kind of get our name out there, but since then, you know, we haven't really been getting together in person as much, but the 5 of us, we talk all the time, and we've been sending ideas back and forth, and you know, certainly when things calm down a little bit, I mean, I can't wait to get for us all to get in the room together. But you know, like everyone else, we've just kind of been sort of waiting the storm out a little bit, and but that doesn't mean we haven't been in contact with one another and haven't been working on ideas and doing, you know, whatever we can, you know, with the limited amount that we're able to. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I'm like chomping at the bit because to get in the room again, it's almost like we're re-meeting, like, because we haven't played in the same room in probably 4 months,
I know
maybe
that's crazy to think about.
4 or 5 months, because like, hey, we don't, we all are, you and I have kids.
Yeah.
Herman's married. Like, it's like, hey, we got to be safe. We can't really, we can't risk things. Music is very important, but we have to be responsible. So we're just all at home by ourselves.
Sure.
And it's almost like we're
Yeah, and like with families and whatnot. Like I know Derek stays with his parents a lot. So I mean, there's all kinds of that. Not that he lives with them, but like they see each other quite a bit. So I mean, everyone wants to be careful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but to your point earlier about writing, especially with all the new members in there, I made it a point when everyone was getting together that, like, yes, we're going to keep this name, and yes, we have this history, but I don't want people to feel like confined to what the band used to be before. And certainly in terms of coming up with new ideas, I want everyone to bring their own ideas to the table. It's not just about me kind of dictating what Vertebreaker is. Like, you guys are now in Vertebreaker, so Vertebreaker is kind of whatever we want it to be. And that was always kind of the mindset that I had with the guys who were in before, and I wanted to keep with with you guys now. So I mean, yes, I'm sure to a lot of people it's not going to be the same, but that's okay, because these things happen, and just I'm excited to see sort of what the band ends up evolving into, and we're still very early in the process in terms of writing all together. I know the first couple months when we got together, we wanted to get out and like learn the old songs, and so we could get out and play and just kind of let people know, hey, we're still here. And but this is obviously an opportunity for us to work on new material all together. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and I was very thankful that was like when we first met, we get together. It's like, hey, it's not a cover band playing stuff that we're not covering Vertebreaker, right? It's like,
sure,
we're going to go in a direction that is, it's not forced. And we have great players. Like, I'm really excited. Felipe is amazing on the guitar. Like, everyone's going to get to know him.
Mm-hmm.
Just spoiler alert, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you got Derek. He's written so many songs, and he keeps writing. He's a great player. Super cool guy. And then obviously Herman, like, is great. I was super happy to have a really strong drummer, because in our genre, and pretty much any music genre, but specifically rock music and heavy music, if you have a great drummer that can like set the pace and the tone and like keep everybody together, it just makes it happen. There's nothing worse, and I'm never going to trash someone specifically, but there's nothing worse than a band with a weak drummer. So I'm excited. We got all the pieces, and they fit together, and you can sing your ass off.
Thank you.
And you write awesome lyrics.
Thank you, sir.
And it's super cool. Like, everything works together. And we just, we hit a road bump, and I think all this stuff is a blessing in disguise, because, just with everything in life, right? Everybody's moving along. You're kind of like on autopilot, right? It can be at work, and unfortunately, some people it's really hitting them hard. But I know that as a people, we're all going to get through it. We're going to help each other. Things are going to get better. But just specifically for the band, it sucks to not go out and play and meet new people and stuff. But I feel like this is going to help us. Like, to be selfish.
Plus, we were still able to get a cool photo shoot in right before all that happened with Kara. So that was at least something we could put out there.
Oh, yeah. And, people, there's nobody around, so we kind of had free reign of Orlando.
Yeah.
Like, that area of town, which was super cool. Like, we could just do whatever we wanted, like sneaking. Like, we snuck into private property. So.
Yeah, no, it was a very fun shoot, very easy.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Like, I think that, I think things are going to go well in the future, and in the near future. hopefully we'll be playing soon together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody's been playing. I've been kind of like, the guy I've been sending. So I send music to the guys, and I'm like, I was in this weird, like, okay, I'm going to grab the acoustic guitar and I'm going to play some stuff. And it may never even be Vertebreaker stuff, but it's like, all right, I'm just getting it all out and then getting it out there, recording it, and then bam. And the other guys are in the same headspace. Like, it's just, we have our Facebook chat. We're all together. It's like, hey, check out my song. It's like, I have these, or just riffs. It's like everything is really coming together, and there's going to be a little rust to kick off, but really,
of course, yeah.
As soon as the time comes, we're going to hit the ground rolling, man, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Gotcha. We were talking about Herman on drums and everything he can do. I mean, the guy plays like a monster. But in terms of like chemistry, I know from playing bass in bands, it's always great if you as a bass player are really able to lock in with the drummer and sort of have that sixth sense, have that sense of chemistry. How has that been for you playing with Herman? Like, have you guys, amongst each other, like, how do you feel that chemistry is?
I think it's really good. Like, I know where he's coming from because, like, stylistically, and it didn't take too long to really figure out where he's going and where I'm going. We don't play a lot right now.
Well, yeah.
But I do think that there's obviously going to be room to grow, and like, it's not perfect. We haven't like really hit that like one spot where it's like we're just one. Whenever that time comes, it's going to be very soon.
Sure.
We like stylistically, we both like, we love the same things, and I love his playing, and we snuck in a little mini studio session.
Right.
And that was really cool because I sent him an idea and the melody, and like, he came in and really kind of like spot on played what I kind of explained. Like, and obviously he did it in a way that I could never do. And I'm like, all right. It really was a very easy recording session. Like, it didn't take him long at all. It was a one taker, but we were just kind of like, hey, let's do it a couple more times. Just because, like, you don't want to just one take out the door. And, and actually it was Hutch from Vapid. We were using his home studio, and he was like, man, he's pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, he is. Like, he had never really seen him because he's coming, he hadn't seen the new lineup. So I love it. He's got a like heavy player too.
Yeah.
Which I like, because I'm kind of aggressive. So when I'm playing in Vertebreaker, I'm using a pick because I'm trying to, like, I kind of like to get it out, and like, I like that tone, and I just think it sounds really good, especially with our music.
Sure.
And I can play fast, and if he wants to get crazy and just play 200 beats in a minute, I'm like, all right, I love it. And it's right on the money. And his accents are sick, and we kind of like, I feel like we have a very similar style, like how we want to emphasize certain things in the song. So I'm good.
Definitely.
I like it.
Definitely. No, it's always important to have that rhythm, the rhythm section, be able to have that, to have that relationship for sure, if you can. And so I guess going back even farther to when we first started talking, I know you hadn't, you were in Mindwax, you had played in a few bands before, but you'd kind of gotten out of it for a little bit. Was there anything in particular when we started jamming together, was that making you think like, I think this gig might be the right fit for me? What was it that sort of attracted you to the band?
So I would say the organization and maturity level of, like, you specifically, and then when I met Herman, it was, I'm 38 years old, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen and done a lot of stupid things and immature things in the past. Like the whole rock star thing, it gets a little out of hand with some people, and you never know. You get in a room with some people that you know, they don't take it seriously. So I knew right away, like, okay, when we get together to rehearse and even just trying out for the band, you can tell we're not going to put up with like people that are immature or not responsible. Like everybody knows the music. So that was the main actual, it's not even what we're playing.
Right.
Because I never stopped playing. So Mindwax kind of dissolved in like 2007. So there's a big time lap. I've always played music in my church, so it's like every 2 or 3 times a month I would play, and those musicians are amazing. I've learned more playing in church the last 15 years than I ever would have playing in like a hard rock band. It's
no doubt.
I learned so much more about melody and just timing and playing different types of music, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, I've played with some, pretty big people too in that meantime between Mindwax and now. I played basically in a garage band with, signed guys that they ended up just going another way. And those were interesting times, but they maybe weren't as much people. I just like to get in a room and just play and not goof off. And that was the main thing I liked. And then once we had our current lineup, maybe not even Derek came in, because Derek's really like the third guitar player we've had in a year. So we had
we had a couple different guys in originally, and but once we finally settled on Felipe and Derek, I think we could all tell it was just everyone was the right fit, and of course, no offense to anyone who came before. It's just, especially when you're dealing with new people, sometimes you have to go through and see, okay, what works, what doesn't, or what's the best fit. And personality-wise, playing-wise, even with people's schedules, that all takes into account. And certainly having guys like yourself and Herman who have been in bands before and have kind of been around the block a little bit definitely has helped me out a lot. Just having other guys with some experience who kind of understand what it's like to do this, and who I can kind of bounce ideas off of, in terms of and kind of understand the business end of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Even it doesn't matter what level. If you're playing original music and you're going out to a venue to play original music, there is a way to do it, and you have to be professional. It doesn't matter if you make $1 or $1 million. And you always have to treat yourself and the venue the same way, and the people you work with.
Sure.
So it doesn't, and then to get back to like specific players in a band, that's another thing that you kind of learn as you go through the years. It's kind of, it's a marriage between players and members of a band. And sometimes it doesn't matter how good a person is. It's just like, hey, it might not work out. Or if someone's like, hey, I got to move. It's like, okay, well, we can't do it remotely. So yeah, like there's no bad blood or any ill will and also people that it's not because they weren't good enough. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So we have a pretty good group now. Like we're all, we're on the same page. It's like, I think where the band needs to go, where we want to go. Like, we're all, you kind of need that. You can't have a group of 4 or 5 people with different goals and ambitions, because then that's where the bands break up.
Sure.
That kind of happens. Like everyone experiences it. If you're in rock music, you're never going to be in just one band, because it's like impossible.
Very rarely does that happen. And unless your names are Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul.
Yeah, and then even then it's like, okay.
And even they did Damage Plan too. So
Of course, things happen, and like things change, and scenarios change. So yeah, like I've been very happy about how things went and are going. We don't, I've played, so I've even been offered positions before where it's like, hey, come play with us. And I've played some, like one show with a band, right? And it wasn't what I wanted to play, or I didn't maybe get along with the members, right? So it's like, it's not about just being a good player. there's so many things involved, and that's what makes it tough. And I think a lot of people need to understand that, like, as a fan, right? Like, sometimes we get upset, or we have like these expectations, like, oh man, why can't they just get over it and go play for us? Like, we're so demanding about other people's time, and it's like, it's not as easy as it looks to get together with all these different personalities and stuff. And that's, I mean, we've done great as far as keeping that together and moving it forward. And as soon as we're allowed to, we're going to go out and play. It's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always, I've always said, it's not always about even finding the best players. It's about finding the right players and finding, just the right chemistry being there. And I feel like we've got a good group of guys right now. And I feel like, a lot of good ideas are being passed around, and I'm excited to finally get some new songs together, and hopefully once things open up, and I pray to God it happens soon, that we could get out there and do our thing again. You mentioned goals and sort of expectations. What are some of the things that you would like to see the band accomplish once things open back up?
So the main reason why I wanted to get back into playing live music was that aspect, going out and playing live. So the first goal is have a set that we can play, and we can go anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's the smallest club, it could be the House of Blues, it could be wherever. I want to be tight and go play a show that, like, here is Vertebreaker, this is what it is. This is a band, right? These guys are tight. There's no goofing. It's like, it's not sloppy. So that's the number one goal. Then the number two goal is get to a point where we can produce and put something out for people to listen to anytime they want. And that can be an EP, that can be an LP, that can be a demo, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is, as a band, we need to be able to get together with all the current members and record great music. So those are the two goals that, no matter what happens after that, it's almost out of our control. We can control what kind of show we put on, and we can control what we record. And then all the other, the business part of it, the fans, this and that, those goals, I'm not going to say, like, we need to be playing in a stadium, right?
Sure.
You can't control that, but what we can control is what we put out and how we perform. So that's
absolutely,
that's what I think of.
Absolutely. And I think we're all on kind of the same track. I know, before the previous incarnation of the band split, I know that we were sort of making it, we were starting to make a little bit of a name for ourselves locally. We were starting to get, some good gigs, and I would definitely like to see us get back to that eventually and just kind of work our way back up. It's not going to happen overnight. These things take time, especially, and sometimes people forget about you, and you just need to remind them. And I feel like we can do that, especially with this new group of guys. I feel like we're kind of re-energized and looking to get out there and kick ass again.
Yeah, and there's another thing too, that this goes out specifically to young people that are maybe new, and this is just players, really. I've learned this as I got older and more experienced. When you're young, sometimes some bands or maybe players, they kind of feel like it's a competition, right?
Yeah.
So they might be standoffish, or they might be like, well, I'm just trying to be better than everyone else, and that's how I'm going to make it. But really, if you look back historically in rock music, if you can build a scene that's very strong as a whole unit, those people succeed, because it's not just one group of guys that are or girls. They're not the ones that are just gonna bring the attention to themselves all the time. Really, sometimes it's like, if you can build each other up, and when you play with other bands, like, get to know them, help them out, they will help you out. Like, we're all in this together as artists and performers. So really, what I like about our band is, like, we're not like a bunch of jerks coming in and thinking we're better than someone, or thinking that, like, oh, we should be doing this, and why, we're like in it together with these other bands. And, like, I think we're going to be willing to like go play and open up for someone maybe, or they can come open for us. We can build a scene together so that all of our fans come see each other. And then it's like, then it grows. Because really, like, when you write music, you want people to hear it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, man, they just like, this was me specifically. When I was in Mindwax, we were young. We were like 23 years old. And we didn't really have the right ideas on how to like get the music out.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I'm just speaking for me now. I don't want to speak for the band, but it could get a little pretentious, right?
Sure.
And we were like, hey, we're making this kick-ass music and we're good. You need, if you don't want to listen to it, that's your fault, right?
It's a very confrontational, like a combative thing.
Oh, it's very combative, and you're playing heavy music. It kind of like people would expect that,
right?
But, like, really, I come to realize, and even it's like, you know what? That's not how you're going to get people to hear you. Like, you have to gain the trust of other people's fans and gain the.
You can't threaten people to come out to your shows.
No, and you can't you can't be like not getting along with the other bands. Like anyone that's become popular, it's because like there's a fan of some band and they hear someone else and they're like, oh, those guys are awesome. So like that's really the other. I mean, it could be a third goal. The third goal is to be a band that other people are like, they're cool people. They're very humble. You can get along with them. They're going to help you out, and then we can all kind of get along as a scene. Because really, before any time, I never felt part of a music scene. It was always like, we're our own thing, and we're going to try to like shine above that. But really, man, just look back. Like, okay, example, Seattle, 1990. It wasn't just because this band blew up. They all were getting their same play at the same time. And then if one starts getting all the shine, then everyone else gets a look too. So
I mean, there's definitely an old saying that like a rising tide lifts all ships. I think there is something to that. And I mean, look, there is an aspect of the business which can be competitive, especially if there were only so many slots to go around on radio or on a concert bill. Like that part of it I understand, but I think when you have musicians and bands trying to like undercut each other and try to bash one another just to kind of get some publicity or whatever, I don't think that's good business. I don't think that's a good way to do things. And I've always tried to make it a point to work with people who we're on a show with and not like against. I mean, obviously you want to go on stage and do the best you can and absolutely crush it and try to outplay everyone necessarily. I mean, not like in a bad way, but just try to do the best that you can and but like at the end of the day, there's only you can only control what you do. So
100%. You want to play well and you want to kick butt and you want to do the best. And that I do. I want to be like, I play and I practice for someone, just one person in the crowd to be like, man, this is changing my life looking at this person. Because I've had that experience. But I also am going to give it up to other bands and other people and say, man, those guys kick butt. And they're like,
absolutely,
they're killing it. But see, that's how, because man, it's tough. When I first started, like the first thing I bought was a tape, right? I bought a tape and then CDs. There's people that might listen to this and be like, what are you talking about? Like,
right.
Why would
younger cats?
Like, we're from like, we're from an era, and me specifically, like, man, music growing up, like rock music, those people were mainstream. It was popular music.
It was, yeah.
They were on TV. Like, it was like a thing. And now it's like, it's so different. We're in this new space where it's like, you kind of need to work together and kind of be all on the same page, because like you said, like we're all going to live and die musically, even if it's just at this little, it could be a little sliver, but we can't kill each other and cannibalize. It's a work together, and it's an artist thing, and we're all artists, and we can't bash each other and bring each other down. Like, and that's something that I think people they need to remember that. And we don't do that as a band. We are going to be very supportive to all of our peers, and if we're going to get along with you, and we're all going to treat you right, and nobody's going to undercut each other. No. We're just going to come out there very clean. We're going to try to do as best we can on stage. But yeah, like there should be no drama ever.
Absolutely, and I understand that everyone's kind of out for themselves to a degree. I mean that's completely understandable. But I mean you look at some of the most successful bands of all time, and a lot of them ended up opening doors for a lot of other bands. Even the Beatles. I mean how many bands, both British and American got discovered because of the doors that those guys opened up.
Absolutely.
And there's a complete history of all that. If you look at all these different eras, throughout rock history, I mean, there's a million examples of that.
Definitely. We're going to get back to it. My wife is definitely excited to see us play.
For sure.
So everybody has to figure out a way.
For sure, man. You're a newly married man. You're a newly married man. So yes. I know she's excited to get, and certainly I think, and look, we've all been through each other's personal lives and gotten to know each other over the last year. But I mean, I think that's kind of made us a little bit stronger and brought us closer together, and things are good. And I'm excited to have you in the band, man. I really love what you do, and I think that you and I work really well together.
I really appreciate it, man. I needed to give a shout out to Christine, because she's been asking me, like, every once in a while. She's like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, when are you guys gonna get together and play?" And I'm like, very soon, as soon as we can, we will be back. We will be back on face-to-face schedule. Dude, I've been really excited about doing a podcast with you, and the future is bright.
Exactly. And I think having something like this out there kind of keeps our name out there, and it kind of introduces you to people who might not know who you are, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to have Derek and Felipe on here eventually too as well. But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to promote or plug before we wrap it up here.
Not necessarily. I do have solo stuff that is in the works. And pretty much a lot of stuff that I've sent you acoustically is solo. I set a goal for myself to have music recorded by next summer, 21. So that's really, when that happens, I'll have to come talk to you again about that specifically. But
yeah. Well, I mean, are you thinking that might be something you'd want to sing on?
Well, I don't want to. I'm not really a singer. I've spoken to a friend of mine who is a pretty good singer. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to put his name out because I don't want to say. I'm not sure if he said he would do it. It's basically something I kind of wanted to do, and it really kind of started during the beginning of, even before COVID, but really when COVID started. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm playing music, and I'm like, you know what? I've been playing music for over 20 years. I've never recorded my own music, and I don't care what it sounds like. But it's just kind of a selfish thing. Yeah. So yeah, the solo project will be coming out next year. Nice. And then also I'm plugging, check out Vertebreaker. We got Spotify, right?
Oh yeah.
iTunes.
Yeah. We're all over the place.
YouTube, go on YouTube.
Yeah.
Check us out everywhere. We're still around. We're kicking, and like the Kraken, we will be coming very soon, and it will be dangerous.
Yeah, man. I love it. And I was asking because I keep trying to talk you into some of the guys maybe throwing in some background vocals there on stage, but I think Derek at least is going to have that covered. I know
that'll be good. I don't know if Felipe's singing. If you put a mic in front of me, I'll do something on it. It's just when we get to the club, and if they don't have, I'm like, you know what, you don't have to burden yourself. But if they have a mic, I will definitely help out anytime.
Yeah, I mean that's something I'm always in favor of, more voices. I'm trying to talk Herman into doing it a little bit too, because I've heard him sing a little bit, and I'm like, okay, he can at least carry a tune. So it's like, come on, man. But we'll see what happens. But anyways, man, thanks a lot.
All right, man. See ya. Yep.
Thanks once again to Robert Secrest for a great interview, great conversation. Like I said, he's an amazing bass player, good songwriter. just an all-around great dude, and I'm really psyched to have him as part of Vertebreaker. He brings a lot of skill, a lot of experience, and I can't wait till we get back out there and keep doing our thing. So thank you guys as always for tuning in. Like I said, I wish I had more upcoming events or something to plug here, but there's not really much I can say about it. I know that my other band, Mature Musical Pictures, we recently shot a music video that should be out on YouTube pretty soon for our single called My Own Life, and I really can't wait to show that music video. And I'm going to have some more Vertebreaker guys on eventually. Maybe not right away. Maybe I might space it out a bit. But yeah, so it's been great to have Rob here on the show. Hope everyone's out there staying safe, being careful, and all that good stuff. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at jackxconnor. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/jackconnormusic. Feel free to check out me and Rob's band, Vertebreaker, at facebook.com/vertebreakerband. And we're on Spotify, pretty much everywhere you get your music digitally. Make sure you also check out my other band, Mature Musical Pictures, at maturemusicalpictures.com. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com, or you could tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. As always, if you're listening to this on YouTube or iTunes, make sure you subscribe, like the video, go back and hit the notification bell so you get updated whenever I post something new. Leave a comment and go back and listen to all the other episodes. Thanks as always for tuning in. This has been the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.